Welcome to Mint Views. After the emphatic win in Delhi by Arvind Kejriwal's Aadmi Party, AAP, the question we are going to talk about today or ask today is to what extent is the AAP model of governance or of politics likely to be adopted by other opposition parties in other states and other parts of the country? Now, there are two aspects to this. One is, of course, the welfare aspect of the AAP model of governance, which involves emphasis on neglected areas such as education and healthcare, and also the provision of free electricity and water supply up to a certain level to the poor, largely, or the have-nots. There's another aspect to it, of course, and that's the politics of it. Arvind Kejriwal very diligently avoided taking on the Bharatiya Janata Party on any of its core political issues, especially Hindutva issues. Does this also set something of a template for other parties that are trying to actually challenge the Bharatiya Janata Party? That's a question. We have two questions involved in one. So let's start. Shrija, what do you think of this?
I think, Arish, the results, as you've mentioned, is an emphatic win. It's definitely an affirmation of the AAP's welfarist model or the model in good governance, which they have based their issues rather than the nationalistic rhetoric that has been whipped up by the opposition. But I would say that it might be a bit too early to suggest if this model could be replicated or could act as a template for other states. Because if you see in the nationalist level, there are two facets or aspects to it. First is the voters vote very differently in both the state and the federal elections. So if you compare the 2019 electoral advantage, the dividends that BJP gained, but right after that you see the string of electoral defeats it has witnessed in several other states, which tells you that even at the national level, even if the BJP remains prominent, it might not be the case with the state elections. And in the second fact, there's also very core support base of the brand Modi or the Prime Minister as such. And even if they choose to vote on issues which might be very local or which might be very regional to some extent, but that doesn't necessarily translate when you compare it with the nationalist or with the nation state as such. So I would say it might be a bit too early to suggest if there could be a shift or if the model could be replicated by the other parties.
So you're basically saying even if it inspires them to adopt some of the welfare aspects of Kejriwal's governance, it may not help them very much at all. Srijay, what do you think about this?
I agree with Sreja here. You see, one given template cannot be replicated across states because every state has its own political dynamics, and politics, is so fluid. In the case of Aam Aadmi Party, you see it's largely an urban party, and for all its talk about improving healthcare and education infrastructure in Delhi, it remains sketchy basically, whatever it has provided for. But it has marketed its achievements very well. To that extent, and also since Aam Aadmi Party is an urban party, it's a small place where caste and religious divides are not as sharp as you may see in a state like say Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or Bengal, where issues like nationalism can resonate quite strongly. So I do not think AAP's model could be replicated successfully because AAP as a party is different from other parties, and Delhi, being a small state, largely urban population where caste divides and religious divides are not as sharp, is different from the political dynamics that play out in a state like say Bihar or West Bengal. So these are the limitations.
So essentially in other such states, any political party will have to take a position on national issues like this is citizenship bill, Kashmir, things like that, things which Kejriwal has avoided taking any position on. That's what you're...
They will have to because see, in a place like Bihar or in a place like West Bengal, the BJP has been stirring up these issues for the past several years, and the final frontier for the BJP at the moment seems to be West Bengal, where if it can breach West Bengal, it will have kind of achieved its purpose. It may have achieved its entire ideological pursuit so to speak.
Rohit, you had a point to make on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth in what Shriji and Shrija have said, that voters vote differently, and it could be very difficult to replicate AAP's success. But we must keep in mind that, you know, in the current political atmosphere and discourse, which is so to say being dominated by a certain narrative, a certain ideology, AAP's victory is an excellent example. I mean, I believe it is inspirational in some sense for both for politicians and voters, that an alternative politics is possible. It may not be possible to replicate it like very quickly, but there's a start. AAP's victory has given a vision to the people of India that something like this is possible.
So AAP's victory suggests that one can actually win without identity issues in the game,
Exactly.
on purely, issues of welfare. But that depends on the reality on the ground. Anant, what do you make of this?
I'm more worried about the impact such policies can have on our economy and the financial situation of different governments, which is anyway pretty weak. Our fiscal situation, be it the center or the states, is not good. So this particular victory, the emphatic victory that AAP has gained, I think it definitely will have an echo across India. Different states will try to test out whether they can also model their politics around the politics that Arvind Kejriwal did.
Can I just stop you here? I think in terms of the fiscal deficit, Delhi actually has one of the best, as I just read in some of the data today, better than other states. The other states may not have that leeway. Is that the point you're making?
No, in the case of Delhi, it's a center-ruled state, so the funds are received from the center. So I don't think you can equate Delhi with every other state. So most of the states, if you leave out the union territories, there are the states, the fiscal situation is not really that good. But the economic impact, if what has happened over here, a large part of the credit for the AAP's big win could go to the freebies that have been announced. If every state also tries to test it out, I'm afraid we could be in an economic soup. And while it's right that there to a certain extent we need to protect the poorer sections of our society, but once this becomes a political tool to gain votes, then you never know when it spirals into a situation where you're just looking for political gains without considering what the economic impact might be. But on the political side, I think what this victory for AAP does is that it gives a hope to other states that the BJP brand of politics, which it tried in Delhi, it has been trying in other states also, in Bengal also, for instance. The hyper-nationalism that we saw over here, they've been trying to win votes in Bengal also on the same lines. They're campaigning so far. The elections are due next year, but the strategy so far has been to promote hyper-nationalism, and it's on that basis they're trying to consolidate their votes. But now AAP's victory gives such parties a hope, opposition parties a hope that, okay, there is a possibility to defeat this kind of BJP assault. Whether it works in different states or not is a matter of time will tell us. Conditions in Delhi definitely differ from other states, but it has certainly given certain hope to all these states that there is a way to fight back.
In general, it seems that the other states will have to look whether they have the fiscal leeway to offer the kind of freebies that Arvind Kejriwal has managed to give in Delhi, whether or not those kind of welfare measures can be done. What they could do in the interim, though, which a lot of states forget, is to bring back emphasis on education and healthcare in particular. As for the politics, I think that's still a gray area entirely. We still don't know exactly where Arvind Kejriwal stands on various key issues which are central to the future of this country. On Hindutva issues in particular, Arvind Kejriwal has been entirely evasive. That may not be viable in other states. And that's why we don't know whether his model can actually work. Thank you.